Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening today. This is the RX Daily Dose. Today's episode is being recorded on Monday, February 17th, and I'm your host, Ian Pranagoni. We update this podcast every week for healthcare providers, medical professionals, and anyone who has an interest in drug updates. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all of your favorite podcast platforms and social media, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. All links can be found in the show notes below. So not much this week from the FDA, just a couple updates and then an update on flu season and the coronavirus. The first from the FDA, this week they granted final approval for Pemetrexed injection, which goes by brand name Pemfexy, and marketed by Eagle Pharmaceuticals as an alternative and direct competitor to Alimta, which is marketed by Eli Lilly, for the treatment of non-small cell lung cancer and malignant pleural mesothelioma. Pemfexy is a ready-to-dilute formulation, meaning that it does not require reconstitution, which helps reduce the potential for dosing errors during mixing, as well as hazards of inhaling the vapors that can occur when handling the powder form of the drug. Pemfexy was actually granted tentative approval in 2017 by the FDA, though the company was not able to market due to existing patent protections. Last December, an agreement was reached between Eagle and Eli Lilly that would allow for an initial entry of Pemfexy into the market on February 1st, 2022, and then a full entry on April 1st, 2022. The full list of indications for Pemfexy include locally advanced or metastatic non-squamous, non-small cell lung cancer in combination with cisplatin, or in patients whose disease has not progressed after 4 cycles of a platinum-based first-line chemotherapy. Also indicated for locally advanced or metastatic non-squamous, non-small cell lung cancer after prior chemotherapy as a single agent, and malignant pleural mesothelioma in patients whose disease is unresectable or who are otherwise not candidates for curative surgery in combination with cisplatin. Also this week, the FDA approved Lactitol, which is an osmotic laxative and goes by brand name Pemfexy, for the treatment of chronic idiopathic constipation in adults. Pemfexy is an off-white crystalline powder for oral solution. The recommended daily dose is 20 grams of the powder mixed daily with 4 to 8 ounces of water, juice, coffee, tea, or soda, and preferably taken with a meal. The dosage should be reduced to 10 grams daily in patients who have persistent loose stools. The approval was based on results of a 6-month placebo-controlled trial, a 3-month active control trial, and a 1-year uncontrolled safety study. The primary efficacy analysis was based on the first 12 weeks of the 6-month treatment period among 594 patients, with 291 in the Lactitol arm and 303 in the placebo arm. Significantly more patients using Lactitol responded to treatment compared with placebo. The researchers defined responders as those patients who had at least 3 complete spontaneous bowel movements in a given week, and an increase of at least 1 bowel movement from baseline in the same week for at least 9 weeks out of the first 12-week treatment period, and at least 3 of the last 4 weeks. In clinical testing, the most common adverse reactions were flatulence, diarrhea, increased blood creatinine phosphokinase, abdominal distension, and increased blood pressure. The label states that because of differences in clinical trial designs and settings, adverse reaction rates cannot be directly compared between trials or other drugs and may not reflect the rates observed in practice. Pemfexy is contraindicated in patients with a known or suspected mechanical gastrointestinal obstruction. Hypersensitivity reactions, including rashes and pruritus, have been reported during post-approval use of Pemfexy outside of the U.S. Pemfexy may reduce the absorption of oral medications administered at the same time. Therefore, oral medications should be administered at least 2 hours before or after Pemfexy dosing. And finally, from the FDA, if you recall in episode 17 from back in January, we discussed that the FDA was reviewing clinical data for lorcaserin, which goes by brand name Belviq, and they actually alerted the public about a possible risk of cancer associated with the drug. The FDA originally approved Belviq back in 2012 and required the manufacturer to conduct a clinical trial to evaluate the risk of cardiovascular problems. A range of cancer types was reported, with several different types of cancers occurring more frequently in the Belviq group, including pancreatic, colorectal, and lung. The FDA requested that Eisai, the manufacturer of Belviq, voluntarily withdraw the weight loss drug from the U.S. market because of the clinical trial and that it showed an increased occurrence of cancer. Eisai complied, although it disagrees with the FDA's interpretation of that clinical data. The FDA is recommending patients stop taking Belviq and throw away any unused pills using a drug take-back location or home disposal techniques. There's a full link to the FDA statement and instructions in the show notes. And finally, a quick update on influenza and coronavirus thus far. For the coronavirus, and these numbers are as of Sunday, February 16th, the coronavirus death toll rose to 1,671, 1,666 of which are from China, and the number of confirmed infections rose to 69,289 worldwide. 68,509 are from China. There are only 15 confirmed cases in the US and 5 deaths outside of China from the virus. On February 11th, the World Health Organization announced an official name for the disease that is causing the current outbreak of coronavirus. They're calling it COVID-19. It is important to note, however, that there is a large jump from previous numbers. Most of that is due to how China is recording who has the illness. Previously, China was only reporting out those that actually were testing positive via laboratory analysis. Now, China is including those with clinical presentation as well. It has been widely assumed that China was always underreporting those numbers and the number of cases of the infected, so this doesn't really change what was already anticipated to come out. And for influenza so far this year in the US, and again, numbers are just for the United States, the CDC now estimates that so far this season there have been at least 26 million flu illnesses, 250,000 hospitalizations, and 14,000 deaths from the flu. 92 deaths have been reported in children. Overall, hospitalization rates remain similar to this time during recent seasons, but rates among children and young adults are higher at this time than it was last year. And just one more time for good measure, some tips to stay healthy this season. First is get your flu vaccine. Yes, even now, you can still get your flu shot. You want to make sure you avoid contact with those who may be sick. Stay home from work and school when you're sick. Cover your mouth and nose while sneezing or coughing into your sleeve. And clean your hands with soap and water or an alcohol-based sanitizer. And that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll include all links and resources in the show notes below, so please go back and check those out too. Please connect with me on any of your social media platforms and give me feedback on what you heard today. I'd love to know what you thought about the episode. And as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Music by Joseph McDade.